is quite a different approach since I need to be much more precise and also to have a little bit more control over my perspective and all that stuff. First thing I do, I specify the horizon line, right? So I can get my perspective right. And now what I do, I use almost like a line drawing approach, but instead of being too precise with my lines, I'm using a brush that allows me to be quite loose. And that essentially allows me to be a bit faster, because if it was like pure line drawing, I had to refine it quite, like, be a bit more precise, I guess, which would eventually take more time. And as I mentioned before, for most of this kind of sketchy work, rough stuff, I set up a timer, and for this one the timer was on 15 minutes, so then I can concentrate on this story and on this image just from a, like, overall perspective of view. I don't want to get into too much detail, try to refine those things. So right now it's all about like general kind of look of it, and as I uh, continue working on it, I also think in terms of the design stuff. And because I'm staying in the line world right now, all I'm worried about is the pure like shapes and forms, right? I'm not even considered about lighting, which is already by like already is a big beast by itself. And also this line drawing allows me to set up the scene first, and from there, once I show it to our director, he goes like, yeah, I like it, let's just move on and make it beautiful. Then I can start blocking out different lighting scenarios, and also depending on what director wants, that lighting scenario could change. And then instead of changing the whole picture that I just made, I'm just going to change the light paths that I will do later on. So right now, staying loose, staying very simple allows me to quickly implement like big changes if needed, right? For example, let's say because we're fully doing this in 2D, I would show this to the director and he would go like, well, actually I thought to have a bit more like higher aerial shot. Because I spent literally like 15 minutes just on line drawing, I will be able to kind of really address that feedback. I will just be able to go back, just redraw it. But imagine if this was a fully fleshed out uh, uh, value drawing, value painting, or even like color painting. Any changes made to this would mean a total redraw, and this is exactly what I don't want to do. And this is exactly that you need to learn how to make quick stuff like this, so you will be able to work quite faster if there are any changes needed, especially at the beginning when nothing is signed off. There's no design signed off. Like for example, this vehicle is not designed yet. Right now I'm trying to just create like this mood keyframe of how it's gonna look like. This is where I need to be very careful with my time and be quite uh, I need to have be very balanced in terms of how much I invest into these sketches. And again, the very first example that I showed you was more, it was like quite simple, right? It was characters, it was all zoomed in, but here we have all the perspective, and this is where people feel like, oh damn, we need to use 3D, because it's getting too much complicated, it's getting too like difficult to manipulate. And again, if you want, I still think it's a very fast way of doing things, but then you need to be stay very rough. You need to go back, avoid being like too precise, avoid being too refined, avoid like doing values first and dropping color first. Start with a kind of line drawing approach, and that will allow you eventually, like in 15 minutes, to have a frame that you can start working up later on. I'm gonna record each one of those, and if you want to see, you can check the time lapses. I did around 8 sketches like this, all of them pretty much the same procedure, like process. I would just start out with setting my perspective line and just drawing, having the idea in my mind, and the rest is just very quick, and it's all about your knowledge and understanding of perspective and stuff.